at the rate of 30%. And I'll be so many times bigger, and I'll need 5 more leaders or 6 more leaders. I know I got attrition, so I need 2 more leaders. So I know that I need about 13, 14 strategic leaders in next 3 years' time in my corporation. And these 13 to 14 strategic leaders will come from next line of leadership. So I got to identify high potential people amongst them. I got to work upon them, help them become right leaders, so that as and when those positions fall vacant, I got people ready. So it's not which happens Bhagwan ke bharose. It happens with a plan, but not for a role. It happens for a bunch of roles.
So picking on what Yogi said, that should there be domain expertise or not, and picking on what Vivek said, that we develop leaders and we fill in positions. So Yasho, in your experience, would there be merit, or do companies have specific domain or functional expertise in mind while developing these leaders, and therefore is there focus on replacing as and when the position falls through one of the people who are in the pipeline?
I'm totally with Vivek, because the statement which you made, I think such a statement by CEOs and chairmen are kept for consultants or press. Basically, the most important thing for any CEO is 2 rabbits running in different directions, to catch them on a day-to-day basis. One is market share, another is profitability. The disruptive changes which are taking place, the longevity of CEOs and chairmen and all is gone down drastically. I'll give you one example. One of the premium magazines comes out with the best young CEOs, and about 4 or 5 years back, the list I traced, I knew a couple of people, and let me tell you, 80% of them had lost their jobs in next 8 months. Because the standard of excellence is going up. In short time, giving results, and mid-term and long-term planning of succession are again rabbits which are going absolutely in different directions. The point with Rajeshwari Ted, I was very impressed because she was talking as a consultant, but she was not talking like a consultant, very convincingly. But the issue is, what are the competencies? Innovation is one competency. I have handled innovation for 6 years along with there are so many facets of innovation which are required in different market, different situation, different economy, different product, different industry. Which competency do you need? Change. Whether you want to grow in market share, you want to grow in profit, whether you want to grow in a developing economy, absolutely different change skills are required. So, that is why what I say, there's an intent, but it is more of intuitive things which really work out. I'm a student of history. Let us take any historical, any king's kingdom, famous kings, the takeover, the succession planning, where the people are limited, either the sons or the brothers of the king will take over. There's a huge bloodbath. The king's mind was clear, this son will take over. But when he dies, who takes over? Absolutely different thing. So the situation, the disruptive changes, unbelievable things are happening in the business. The dwarfs are taking over the giants. Did anyone think that Tata Steel with 3% market share will take over Chorus with 22% of market share globally? The skills required of the CEO is absolutely different. No one can presume what type of CEO or chairman you need. So these are the challenges, these are the realistic challenges. And let me tell you, most of the people have to survive for their day-to-day targets. The board will not going to leave anyone who is not achieving his business results. Yes, you can make a lot of statements. Thank you.
A little point to make.
Sure.
My learning in life is that theory actually comes from the word theater. And the word theater is where you practice. So therefore, our sort of being cynical about the effectiveness of a process because of the challenges doesn't necessarily reduce the importance of that particular process. And I think I'd like to slightly differ from my honorable colleagues here and say that as a process, this is invaluable for the strategic plan. Yes, the challenges are many. For example, if the business is growing at a very fast pace, then making a theoretical succession plan that X or Y or Z as successor 1, 2, 3 will be ready after 3 years or 5 years or 6 years, because the job itself has grown so much or the role itself has more, let's say, internationalization. Yes, those are challenges. But at the same time, I think it's very important to put in a pot both internal contenders as well as external contenders. And I think it's very important to respect longevity in an organization. Some of the organizations that I know of which have been extremely successful, including mine, which have weathered all kinds of storms over 75 years, have become successful only because of longevity and because there has been, whether it is a serendipitous discovery or an incidental discovery, there has been succession planning. And leaders have come, therefore, and leaders have occupied seats which have been left behind by others. So therefore, for the longevity of an organization, and especially those who have managed to survive all kinds of storms, I think it's a very, very important process.
Yogi, I'm not against theoretical concept.
Correct.
Don't mistake me, I'm not at all against that. Succession planning is something which I have learnt, I've taught in XLR as a visiting professor. So I'm not against it. What I'm saying is succession planning is a great theoretical concept which gives us a good foundation for thinking, which gives us a good foundation and says, this is what probably you need to do, but in real life, it doesn't work. In real life, those concepts are exceedingly useful and valuable, but not the actual succession planning, saying that I have a site president who is going to retire in 2014 and I'm preparing A, B, and C for that role. Because I got a large corporation, maybe 4, 5 site presidents are retiring, maybe 2, 3 COEs are retiring, the total 8, 10 people have to develop, for which I have a pool of 30 people.
Yeah.
Now any one of them can take over. So succession planning gives me great ideas and concepts, but do not necessarily say that this is the position. That's my experience.
Rajan, in your experience, will it be a pool system or will it be focused succession planning that would be more effective in implementing the business strategy of a company?
But I completely, I agree with what Vivek is saying. I think succession planning framework gives us a framework, a guideline, a model, and there are lots of models which are available, which also offer certain discipline for managers where they can work towards in planning out careers and talent. And as business has to grow, as business has to thrive, it's important that you also need leaders and talent to really get to achieve those businesses. The other thing what is important is succession planning is not only to be related only at the top and only at the apex management. Succession plan needs to be planned at every level. Now, in organizations, yes, people do work, and in my own previous organizations and current organizations, we do plan people's career and succession plans. But the issue is, for that investment, for developing them, for offering them special assignments, job rotations, training them, hand-holding, supporting them, how much are managers willing to invest that kind of a time when talent longevity is very small, or people's retention is a question mark? Its organization also find that they need certain freshness to be brought in, and hence off-the-shelf talent availability is also available in abundance. And hence the question of organizations deciding whether to really go for a long plan of having succession plans. And even when you have a succession plan, the threat of actually losing out other talent, when people get to know that there is one person who has been identified for their position and the threat of losing out the other key talent because of that. So the other perspective is the top management's own commitment. You know, having a plan and having a structure, having a design and working towards a plan, but how much of commitment does the top leadership, as Yasho was saying, does the top management and the top leaders have in implementing the plan is a big question mark.
So what I hear of our panelists say that while conceptually this is great, succession planning is great, but you know, in reality, in real life, there are huge implementation challenges which some companies appear to have managed well while others have not been able to manage that well. And perhaps one reason that Rajan is pointing out is the top management buy-in. So, Professor Parekh, in your experience with consulting with various companies, what kind of companies you think have had successful?
Sorry to butt in.
Sure.
It's not exactly the voice of which has come from this chair.
Okay.
And I must record a dissent.
Sure.
Because that's very important. While I respect all the three speakers, I would not say that succession planning remains as concept or theory. I mean, we're now getting into a place where we're taking positions of whether succession planning is theoretical or practical. I think it's something we're discussing this evening because it's an important strategic tool for an organization to maintain its competitive edge. None of the three of my colleagues will deny that. The only question I think, and we need to spend the rest of the evening, if you agree,
Sure.
and spend our energies on figuring out what is it that comes as impediments or challenges in succession planning, and how do we address those, rather than taking positions about is performance appraisal worth it because people don't do appraisal conversations, people don't have the time. I may come from a different setup which is extremely disciplined or relatively more disciplined, okay? I'm not gloating about it, but it may be a little more disciplined. So I think it's more important to talk about that than taking positions, if you agree.
Sure. So we shall focus on that. And Professor Parekh, in your experience, has there been difference in the quality of implementation of succession planning by either the origin of the company, which is an Indian company versus global versus regional, or by the kind of ownership? Is it promoter managed, is it professionally managed, et cetera, et cetera? What kind of differences have you seen?
That's a very loaded question. But let me begin by what Yogi is saying. You know, if you look at the definition of succession planning, we use two words. One is pipeline, and the other is the ladder. Both have very similar templates of succession planning. And the minute you put it as a ladder or you put it as a pipeline, you have narrowed the concept of what planning succession is all about and what leadership is all about. Now, if you broaden the concept, and I will answer your question based on that, if you broaden the concept of saying organization is a pyramidal structure, that's a reality. And people have to go from one level of the organization to the other level of the organization. And then if you take that pyramid as a mountain, there are so many pathways to going up. But we have made a template of saying domain knowledge, we have said a template of, and these are all very standardized templates which take the people to the concept of succession planning. Now, if we say that there are a whole pool of people available, and the people can actually move in the direction of growth and to take responsibilities and positions of responsibilities, and they have a spark, the individuals themselves have a spark, the chances are it would become very different. Organizations, in my view, in the last 40 years that I'm in the academic field and 35 years that I'm doing consulting, organizations do use learning and development and lots of training programs to prepare people to take responsibility positions, to take positions which they can take charge and take the organization forward to growth, to competencies, to capabilities, to productivity and all kinds of things. So if we start categorizing which level of succession planning we are doing, then the inputs and the investment the organization makes are very different. The people who are in those positions are also very different. For example, a lot of emphasis was given on today's generation. Now, today's generation who is going to become leaders of tomorrow or take high positions of responsibility, they are very different from the ones all of us sitting here. And that is because the generation today who's going to become leaders are fourth generation free Indians. And fourth generation of Indians sitting here with prosperity, with booming India, respected India, they are looking for completely different things. And all of us, I think many of us here are into positions, have taken a route which has been, or taken a path which has been very well laid out of what it means to be successful. But today it's very different. Organizations are there who have invested a lot of money in young people. They start out from right at the entry level to taking them and start sifting them as they start following the path. And there are some people who start at the middle level and take them forward. And there are some people who say, I know he's the one or I know she's the one, and take them. So there are very many different paths. Let me give you one experience I had. I was working with a leadership group doing a leadership mapping. And there were 12, 15 people, and the CEO said, who amongst this is going to be the next person in the leadership role? I did not have a clue as to their designation or to their levels. And I spotted one person based on the mapping, and I said, that seems to be the person. And they said, impossible. I said, fine. Few years down the line, that person became the position in the leadership role. So there are qualities of the individual and the requirements of the organization which align themselves, and you have a person in positions of responsibility. So succession planning, formalized or spontaneous, are two ways, and which way we work at what point of time is only the growth of the business, where the organization is. All of that has multiple elements, not one.
So Rajan, as you said that you believe that succession planning is important for strategic plans to be implemented, but there are challenges, there are impediments. So what are the challenges and impediments?
Well, I think in terms of while you
To ensure that there is robust implementation, what is that should be done differently, ideally?
well, I think it's about after having put together, or while we put together a plan, it's important to engage and involve all the relevant managers, go through the assessment process, have a plan or a tool which is very transparent and known to all the team members. It's also sharing the plans with the people for whom you are making the plans for the future, having a buy-in with the respective managers for, more importantly, the development plan. Their training and development, capability building, and planning for the next succession plan, investing on them is very critical. B, commitment from the management team, that amongst the team, that the people who have been identified, we would be willing to commit and have these people to offer those positions as and when time come in.
So Yogi, how would you react to these challenges and how do you overcome these challenges?
So one of the challenges very clearly is managing expectations of those who are not anointed as successors and come to know through either the grapevine or through a formal process that they're not. That's one. Second is where the role itself changes very rapidly because of the rapid growth of the organization. And you find that all the succession planning efforts have been extremely laudable, but the strategic emphasis of the role means a different domain, a different geography, a different set of competencies, and therefore, how do you utilize all the investments that you put on a particular person and also created a set of expectations with that person? Third is, I think, when we're talking about this topic, if there is a theoretical situation where you have a laissez-faire organization where people can move in a very, shall we say, non-obstruction manner from one department to another, one function to another. Obstructions come only if their bosses say we can't relieve you, or there's a shortage of talent, and it's completely laissez-faire. And there is a on-the-job, portal, or a portal where the job is advertised, and you just apply and you move. In such cases, of course, the succession planning has to be extremely fluid, and you need to have a constant process. It's not just the senior people, as someone said, but at all levels. So I suppose doing that when there's a talent shortage brings it closer and closer for my colleagues to win the argument that it's purely theoretical. So therefore, one has to be careful to balance out where to draw the line.
Yeah, and Yasho, you pointed out, and very rightly so, that CEO and chairman terms are getting shorter and shorter. And with that happening, and the focus being on market share and profitability, therefore less and less time for some of these initiatives which could be long-term and sustainable, or creating sustainability for the long term. How do you think this can ever get addressed?
The fact is that in country like China and India, there's a huge dearth of leadership. There is a fact, because I am in touch with a lot of global companies, and whenever sometimes they do talk to us about the CEO role for various things, and it is difficult for them to get, because the type of exposure they want, the type of future challenges which they are going to be facing are absolutely unthinkable right now of most of the people who are in leadership roles. Second is the global excellence parameters have come to India. Either you achieve those excellence parameters, or you are finished. You are just no more. With lot of government decisions also, it will come further and further. Now the challenges are competencies, etc. is the right word to use, but who is there to identify those competencies in this type of industry? As I said, if you are talking about change, putting a word, he should be a good manager of change, is a very simple words to put. But there are so many elements of change. Which is more critical, which is lesser critical? And let me tell you, I have been an HR person throughout. I had worked out in my company at all the levels 5 years career plan with consensus of the people. A couple of people left because they were not happy with it. But then it worked, and our attrition went down to our industry till 3 years back to 1%, which used to be average 20%. The issue is getting it executed. Yeah. I had to actually play, then I was an HR head, I was playing a line role, and my word was sort of final, though no line person could resist. But these are very extreme cases, and these are not very healthy cases. So the challenges are another thing, the competencies. I have a very strong belief that learning and developmental things which are there have very limited utilities. I have seen people, they give you only 3 to 4% value addition. It is putting a person on the job, holding him accountable, and giving him empowerment is the biggest learning tool and preparing a person for the future leadership. Him facing tough situations is the biggest training, not training and development, not at all. I am a training man. I was a training man. But let me tell you, it doesn't work at all. It is not skills, it is mindset, it is attitude, and it is how courageous you are to take a decision in an unpredictable situation. These are the qualities which are mattering, which are not there. The tools which a lot of people, I have seen 1 or 2 very, very good companies using those tools and messing up their organization. I will not name them. Please understand, unless a person is accountable for making a person a leader and his performance, no tool works. Accountability is the most powerful thing of training people and making people responsible. Tools don't work. Tools are very theoretical. And how many tools are now there which have been changed according to the culture of India? And the type of challenges which we are going to face, what type of challenges, which tool in India, which tool globally takes care of that? No one. I'm very openly saying that because I know in depth of everything. And I'm not talking in a very diplomatic way.
So
these are the realities. So intuition comes. It might be wrong, it might be right.
So Vivek, building from here, if what we're hearing that some kind of, call it succession planning or call it creating a common pool of leaders who can take over any position, the challenges on the business side, the buy-in of the business leaders continue to be an issue. And how do you tackle that? How will you tackle that? Because if my priority as a CEO is market share and profitability, which should be, but then the long-term sustainability is either through succession planning or through leadership pipeline, how do you get the buy-in and how do you, and we heard that frameworks are there, but it's about robustness of implementation.
I've never seen any resistance to this kind of thing. Primarily because in the interest of business continuity, I think our leaders are pretty intelligent. They know the importance of it. Again, it's an assumption that leaders are probably resisting creating successors. Leaders are wise people. They know importance of business continuity. They know they have to develop leaders so that they can take over. I think that's not an issue at all. Issue comes in whether I'm going to create a successor for a position or I'm going to create a pool of successors. Now, succession planning per se is not resisted. What is resisted is, am I creating a successor for position A, B, and C, or am I creating a pool? I think both are succession planning according to me.
Correct.
But when we talk of succession planning, it is assumed I'm creating a successor for CFO who is retiring in 2014. No, we are not. We are creating great finance professionals. One of them will become CFO.
What's the harm in creating, sorry, sure.
Slip in a small sentence here on what Yasho said on this issue of competencies. He mentioned it 2-3 times and I want to build on what he said. One of the things I've learned is that if you look at competencies set, it's attachment or anchoring around a band or a grade is now giving way to anchoring it around a role and now even graduating further, anchoring it around a person. So I believe that while models have worked about competency mapping for a particular grade, a particular band, and many companies use that, I think it's time to look at whether we can make competencies work around a role and also around a person who's been anointed for a particular role. So that I think is something worth thinking about. A portfolio of competencies is more important than making a model of any particular consultant or any particular consultancy organization. A portfolio which is flexible and from which you can pick up a menu for which is tailor-made for a person.
Yeah,
Sure, go ahead.
just to comment on what Yogi is saying, I completely agree with this. It's very important that rather than getting into super specialization, get into creating doctors, and doctors not only who can see and inspect the left ear and the right ear, but doctors who are there who can actually be a bench strength for now and for future. The second is the implementation effectiveness is also about managing and building credibility. And the way to do it is just demonstrate and make few things happen, build the culture, make things happen. I think it's demonstrated and you will see things falling in place in the company.
And how do you build in the effectiveness of implementation that Yasho was pointing out? That when he did drive it and drive it like a line manager rather than an HR manager, he could make it very effective, and that not only helped the business in terms of having the right people at the right point, but also brought down the attrition from 20% to 1%. And that's really significant. In your experience, how do you drive that kind of effectiveness in the implementation.
Well, I think he raised a very valid point about accountability. And I think that's the crux. And it's actually the issue from both sides. One, from the top management having a commitment and supporting and making things happen. B, HR managers also need to take the ownership, have this accountability, and make things happen. I think they need to have the courage to stand up to what they live for and make things happen.
Yeah, sure.
There are many times people